Hey there, Tracy the Sleep Coach here. Today we're going to talk about the flip side of stimulus control, why you have to be careful when you implement it, and a few drawbacks to be aware of. Stimulus control is all about reassociating sleepy feelings with the bed. And if you recall, the basic fundamentals are, if you wake up in the night and you are not falling back to sleep relatively easily and you're laying there frustrated, tossing and turning, get up, go do something else, and then come back to bed. Now, although stimulus control has a lot of evidence behind it as a standalone approach to working with nighttime awakenings, it can have drawbacks for some people, and there are some situations in which I recommend against using this as an approach. And none of them have anything to do with not liking it. Nobody likes it, so that particular one does not get you off the hook. If you look up stimulus control on the internet, as many people do, they see a general rule of thumb that says if they have not fallen back to sleep within 15 or 20 minutes, to get up and go do something else. We reviewed this in the original video. However, that often leads people to wonder, have I been in bed for enough minutes to get up? Should I wait a little bit longer? Or even worse, it leads them to allowing the clock to tell them when to get out of bed. In general, monitoring like this can become really unhelpful. Now, what do I mean by counting? We don't want to be looking at our watch saying, ooh, 3 more minutes in bed before I have to get up. In general, people will use that counting as a way of over-monitoring what's happening in bed. And all it does is raise arousal and associate those arousal feelings with the bed. And the whole technique's point is to reduce that sensation of arousal and anxiety and sleep monitoring with the bed. The whole point of it is to take that energy someplace else. Another major drawback to people's understanding of stimulus control is that they view it as a way to try to get more tired. So that way, when they do get tired, they can go back to bed sooner. And the aim, again, is about reassociation. It is about bringing those sleepy feelings back to the bed. That part is true. But the point of getting up and going to do something else is not to try to generate more sleepiness feelings. It is simply to remove those negative feelings from the bed and bring them someplace else. That's why I advise people to not get too hung up about what they're actually doing when they are out of bed. The point is to take the fear out of being awake, not to take the awakeness to try to generate more sleep. Because underneath that feeling like you need to do something to generate more sleep is fear. And we don't want any of these activities to really be about fear, about trying to control or manipulate sleep. We're simply trying to create a healthier association with the bed if we can. Now, as part of that, a big caution that a lot of people are not given when they implement stimulus control is that you want to avoid falling asleep someplace else. A lot of people will quickly learn that they are tossing and turning and anxious in bed. They get up to go do something else, and it's really easy to fall asleep on the sofa or in the recliner. Unfortunately, this becomes a habit. They wake up in the night and they go, oh, I could sleep on the sofa or I could sleep in the recliner. Unfortunately, this creates a secondary problem, which is if you want to get back to sleeping in your bed, you're going to have to reassociate those sleepiness feelings with your bed at the same time you are trying to detach them from the sofa or from the recliner or from wherever else you have found your little cozy nest. It's fine to be relaxed, comfy, and cozy. But if you're doing stimulus control, be very careful to not go into a place where you're drifting in and out of sleep. Not only does that remove some of the sleep drive that has been building up simply because you're awake, it also reduces your likelihood of having increased sleepiness to bring back to the bed, and it's associating sleepy feelings and those nice, warm, relaxed, drifting into sleep feelings with someplace else in the house, and you want to associate those with your bed. Another big problem that some people run into when they're doing stimulus control is that they are so desperate to improve their sleep that they want to follow the rules exactly. And they interpret stimulus control in such a way that if they wake up in the night, they immediately get out of bed. It's almost like they flee the bed because they are terrified of associating the wakefulness with the bed and creating more insomnia. So they jump out as if to run away from the problem. They go someplace else and they're following the rules, so they feel really good about that. Then they bring those sleepiness feelings back to bed. And because stimulus control can take some time, the predominant association in that dynamic is one of having to flee the bed because they don't feel like it's safe to be awake in bed. And we definitely don't want that. We want to take all of the fear of being awake at night away from the entire situation, but particularly away from being associated with the bed. So there's a fine line between staying in bed for a little while, seeing if you may fall back to sleep, and you might not fall back to sleep, and then acting on that, or responding to waking up in the night from a place of fear. This actually seeds a different kind of problem. It seeds a new kind of anxiety that can become very difficult for people to overcome in the entire context of trying to work on their sleep. What actually happens is this leaving the bed becomes what we call a safety behavior. And I'm going to talk about safety behaviors a lot in future videos, but in a nutshell, if you feel like it's not safe to be awake and relaxed in bed, and you flee the bed to go someplace else, you feel a sense of relief, don't you? Because suddenly you're no longer worried about having wakefulness associated with the bed because you got up immediately, you ran away. So you have this sense of relief, you're following the rules, and you're doing the things that you feel like you're supposed to be doing, and then you continue on that path. And again, that predominant reinforcement feeling is one of being afraid to be awake in the bed at night, backed up by a huge sense of relief at relieving that anxiety. Phew, I no longer have to be anxious about that because I've gone and I've done this thing and I'm following the rules. That actually reinforces the fear of being awake at night. And that's why we call it a safety behavior. It is a short-term activity that we engage in that gives us a sense of relief. And it doesn't matter why we are doing it, but being aware of that dynamic is really, really important. I'm going to talk a lot about this particular dynamic and other safety behaviors when we are working with sleep and insomnia in future videos. So although stimulus control has a lot of evidence behind it, and in the strict sense of doing cbt-i, it is part of the program, it's not necessarily suitable for everybody. And it's really important, if you are searching on the interwebs about stimulus control or cbt-i or any kind of approach, that you be careful in how you apply and interpret that to yourself. That's one of the benefits of actually working with an individual therapist, because if somebody comes to me, I can assess and judge through the conversation what level of stimulus control might be appropriate. And more often than not, we don't necessarily have to do stimulus control in the way that you're going to read about it on the internet. These things are adaptable and individualizable to the person and their own experience. And that's where having a one-to-one relationship with somebody who knows what they're doing can be really, really helpful in you overcoming your insomnia as quickly and as smoothly as possible without creating potentially other bigger problems that you then have to get over as well. I hope that you found this video interesting. If it raised any questions for you, please leave them in the comments or drop me a message on Instagram. You can find me there at Tracy the Sleep Coach. I'd be more than happy to come on and answer any questions that you have. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.